Alrighty guys, today I wanted to make a video about the OBS 7.3 Power Stroke and the newer body style 7.3 Power Stroke. These guys came out in late 1994 and ran to 1997 in the pickup truck, and then came out with this new body style here. This is my 2001, this is a 1994 late model. People like to say it was an IDI, but it's not. It was actually a 1994 late October this vehicle is titled under, and the door jamb, whatever. Anyway, OBS thing runs forever. My great grandfather purchased this truck, had it brand new, drove it for 90,000 miles. We ended up getting it from him, and it's currently got about 218,000 miles, and it's got the original injectors, original glow plugs, turbo, pretty much everything is completely stock on the engine except for the injector wiring harness. We've had no issues. Oh, we did a crank position sensor too. We did a crank sensor and the injector harness. Those are the only things that we have done to this motor, and it has 218,000 miles. And the thing is just, it's a very reliable truck. Does not look the prettiest, but up here in Michigan, it kind of does stuff to kind of wear down some things here. So pretty much what I want to do is kind of go over both of these trucks and let you know if you're looking at a 7.3 truck. Just kind of let you know what the kind of things you're going to run into. We're going to start off with this one because I figured some people like to say older is better. So maybe we could, kind of show some ideas here. So under the hood here, this is pretty much what you're going to see. I already removed the engine cover here so you can look at the fuel bowl and kind of see what you're going to have to work with. These early model 7.3s, you'll see that there is a mechanical fuel pump under the intake there. Very simple. If you want to run an aftermarket fuel tank, you could put a fuel system in the bed and just run a new fuel line. Your actual fuel line is underneath the manifold here, running on the frame rail. So it's really easy to, put an aftermarket fuel tank in, like at 100-gallon or so. If you want to put one in the bed, it's really easy to run a new fuel system in these. There's only one fuel filter unless you do an aftermarket system. On the early model 7.3s and a late model, the fuel filter is right on top. Super easy. Just get your wrench, pop the filter out of there. You have an area where you could drain the fuel right here, this little yellow lever. Flip that over, drains the fuel. Just put a drain pan under the motor. You'll see it start dripping down. Clean your fuel bowl out before you put the new filter in. Close the lever there. You're good to go. New fuel filter in, new gasket. It's a little O-ring. Done. Boom. New fuel filter in. You also have your fuel pressure here. You could take out, I believe it's this one here. You can actually put a BB in there to raise your fuel pressure up. You can look it up online. I haven't personally done it, but you can pull this out here, and there's a little governor spring in there, and if you put a BB in there, it'll raise your fuel pressure and actually let it run a little bit better. I wouldn't recommend doing it that way, but if some people like to do that, by all means, go ahead. I haven't personally done it, and I don't plan to. If you look in the back there's a little itty-bitty turbo. The late model ones, mine's an 01, so it's got the bigger turbo that I'll show you here. Makes plenty of power. The actual downpipe, it's hard to see, but right there in the downpipe, you can see how flat that thing is. You got about an inch where it just 90s off, and it just kind of kills power. But it's also very hard to get, like, let's say if you go with like a 4-inch MBRP exhaust system, it's really hard to get that downpipe to fit in there. You kind of have to roughen up the back there to get a different exhaust on these things. But once you get it on, you're going to have a little bit more power, I've noticed. You're not going to get huge gains from exhaust, but it'll help flow a little bit better. Another thing is, you got your air intake system here. People like to just delete this and just put an air filter right here. I don't recommend doing that because this is the closest thing you're going to get factory that is a cold air intake. You see it's right here. You're not sucking in warm air, you're sucking in outdoor air. When you just put an air filter right here with your hood shut, you're taking all that heat from the engine bay and just sucking it back into the engine. These early 7.3s were non-intercooled. and you start, you know, you're going to have less power with this engine, and if you put hot air in there, it's not going to be really efficient. I'll show you what I mean on this truck, because this one's got a cooled air intake on it, and it's just fucking worthless. But, you know, plans to come, of course. Another thing is these early 7.3s had a vacuum pump, because there's a brake booster on these ones. Vacuum pump's right here. Fairly easy to change. It's bolted onto the accessory cover here. You can easily change it out, just like the power steering pump. Really easy to do. Water pump's fairly easy. Once you get this cover off here, you can get to the water pump. Everything's very easy to work on these engines. I mean, if you got the little know-how, you'll be able to get to everything. Crank sensor is just down over there. If the tensioner pulley is off, you'll be able to see it. It's just down there. That's one thing that I would always recommend having, is a Motorcraft crank position sensor and a glow plug relay. Those are I highly recommend having spares of those. Glow plug relays right on top here. The early ones just had a glow plug relay. The late model ones, I'll show you on my other truck there, has a glow plug relay and an intake heater relay. Just helps it start a little bit better. But yeah, these things are about, the Motorcraft ones tend to be around 55 bucks. You know, doesn't hurt to make at all to own a 7.3 truck, unless you get into injectors. That gets pretty expensive, but we haven't had to do injectors on this truck. It's still got the original Ultimator right here, so, and water pump and everything else. Truck runs great. So let's see here. You'll notice a couple of the flaws. These things like to leak oil a lot. And you can see these original boots are starting to get a little dry rotted. The turbo pedestal O-rings will start leaking. This truck particularly does not have any oil leaks behind the turbo. It's actually still sealed up nice. It's just the Y-pipe elbow there that's leaking on both sides. And the crankcase breather is starting to leak a little bit. Pretty much all you gotta do is just buy some aftermarket boots and just reseal it up. Nothing too major. Just comes with old age, considering that this is a 1994 truck. We deleted the AC on it because the AC clutch seized up, and we don't use the AC on this truck, so we just put this aftermarket thing on there. So I lied. We did an AC clutch delete, a crank sensor, and the harness. But other than that, everything's pretty much stock with this engine, so go ahead and start it up for you. These trucks do rely on the glow plug relay to start. I guess, let's look at the odometer here. 217,800 miles. So wait to start. Once that's off, starts right up, runs good. It's kind of a dinosaur. It's freaking loud, obnoxious. Oil pressure gauge does not work, but you don't need oil pressure gauges. Just a very good engine. You get that whiff of oil, old diesel smell out of the tailpipe, which is always nice. Definitely let you know why they went to the modern engines now, because of the emissions. These things just polluted like crazy, but they're so awesome. Okay, so now that the loud noise is gone, I could actually hear myself think. So pretty much, if you're looking to get an older OBS 7.3, I would recommend trying to look for an older, lower mileaged one, particularly one that was owned by someone that didn't beat the crap out of it. Like I said, this one we got from my great-grandfather. It's a two-wheel drive truck. He bought it new, took very good care of it, and it just kind of shows. Like I said, we've only replaced a small handful of things on this engine, and it just shows if you take care of something, it's going to last forever. This truck has no tuner on it, has no intentions of having a tuner on it. We simply just use this truck to haul our fifth wheel camper trailer. And my dad's a construction worker, so he's got his construction trailer, that one over there, that we just tow. Very light trailers, no car haulers, no big goosenecks or anything like that. Just camper, work trailer. And that is it. Parks in the winter. We'll just run it every week. Very simple use. Take good care of it. It'll take care of you. At my shop, when we work on these older trucks, they have tuners on them. People beat the crap out of them. Transmissions are the weak link behind this engine. If you could get one with the 5-speed, I think it's a 5-speed. If you get one with a manual transmission, that's kind of the bulletproof deal there. But like I said, if you beat the crap out of it, you're going to blow the clutch. You're going to, thing's going to break. I haven't had issues with the transmissions. This has got the E4OD. The fluid is still a bright red. It's never been overheated. The thing's just really reliable. Yeah, it looks like an old beat-down farm truck, but, it does its job very well. So I figured, if you're looking to buy an older OBS Ford truck, make sure when you go to buy it that it's been sitting and it hasn't been warmed up before you get there, because you want to see how it starts. Like I said, these engines rely on the glow plug system to start. And if you don't want to get there and the truck's already running because, the guy's hiding something. If the glow plugs go bad, they're fairly cheap to replace. Pull the valve covers off, they thread in. Super easy, bing, bang, done. But I think you'd want your truck to start and you see how it starts before you pay an outrageous amount of money, because people ask a lot of money for these trucks. Not this one, but I'm just saying, like, rust-free ones, nice lift and wheels, fucking awesome, all that stuff. Like this truck I got from a dealership, I paid $14,900 for this truck after tax, title, and getting bent over the table. It's pretty rust-free. It's a really clean truck. Had 120,000 miles on it when I bought it. If you look through my channel, you'll see when I first picked this thing up. It's really clean, 4-wheel drive, extended cab. I love the thing. I'll go ahead and I'll show you the differences in the motor here, so you can kind of see what the older generation 7.3 has. Okay, so now that we're in here, let's show you the big differences in the engine. Alternators on the opposite side, your ACs on the other side, so they switch those over. You'll see where the vacuum pump used to be, which it isn't anymore. The system's replaced by a hydro boost steering system and brake system. Water pump's the same, and pretty much everything else down there is almost the same. As you can see, we got a now intercooled intake system. You got your intercooler out front, freaking way more power, way more fuel efficiency. Even though it's 7.3, these things, I get about 14 mpg in the city, and that's me lightly footing it. As you can see, it's got this freaking sick, awesome air intake system here, which sucks in hot air. I would like to go back to the stock one if I could, but you can't find them anymore because everybody does this now. Because this is cool. K&N all the way. It's awesome. Not. Your coolant reservoirs up front here. Really easy to check your fluids and everything. You got your glow plug relay is right here, and then here's your intake relay, your intake heater right here. And you've got a couple more sensors on your intake elbow there. Like there's your intake heater right there. But you got your couple little sensors there and your map sensor. Just a few more odds and ends here, but underneath all that stuff, you got the same basic old 7.3. Turbo is freaking massive. Still doesn't put out a lot of PSI, but it works a heck of a lot better than the old one. Takes a little bit to boost up too. Now these later generation 7.3s had an electronic lift pump, and it was on the frame rail on the driver's side. And I haven't had a lot of issues with those. Those tend to last a long time as long as you got clean fuel running through it. But so what they did is they replaced and just put a cap on the top of the engine there where the electronic pump was. So it's got a different camshaft with no eccentric, and they went to an electronic pump. So it's kind of, if you want to do an auxiliary tank, you got to play with the fuel lines, because the fuel lines on this one are all steel to the back, like the older ones were too, but it's a lot easier to work with mechanical pumps instead of these electric ones. But, so it's a little bit more difficult to do a fuel system. And you just got to run new fuel lines and then just figure out a way to hook up to the pump. Which isn't too bad, I guess, but different injectors. This truck's got AB injectors, which are split shot. The older generation had single shot injectors, so it made a little bit more power when towing, but emissions wise, it's a lot louder, burned a little bit worse. These ones tend to get better mileage and everything. So this is a more modern version of the other engine. I recommend the newer truck, just because you'll be able to tow more, bigger turbo, better fuel mileage, just kind of like a more modern feel to the truck. For this being an extended cab, there isn't a whole lot of room, but you just get more creature comforts. Like, this is an XLT, so you don't get really fuck all for creature comforts, but you could add a bunch of stuff, I guess. I've got a TS 6-position tuner, and I also have the edge monitor here, so I can monitor my trans temp and other stuff there. So let's go ahead and we'll start it up for you, kind of do a quick walk around of it, and show you what I've done to it. Turn the A conditioning off so you can actually hear. You still do have the wait to start light, but it goes off a lot quicker. The truck's currently got 153,000 miles. Starts up, runs great, a little bit quieter, as you can tell, but this truck's straight pipe, so it's kind of weird. Like I was saying on the downpipe of the other truck, the downpipe on this one, it's a 3-inch system down by the firewall, so it has better flow back there, and there's more room to put the different exhaust in there. If you go to a 4-inch, you could actually fit it up to the turbo, and nice and neat and easy, and it's done. And just sitting here idling, you'll see my average, according to this, is 11.6, which I think they're full of crap on that, but, you know. Oh, hi, Papa Dog! Hi, Papa Dog! Still really freaking loud out here in the engine bay. It's not like standing in front of a 6.7 Power Stroke where you can have a conversation with someone. These trucks are freaking loud. So I just went ahead, cut the muffler off, and put a 45. That's outrageously loud, guys. Good old reliable motor, I tell you though. Alright, now before I get too off topic, I know we're 18 minutes in here. But in all seriousness here, if you're looking at buying an older truck, you're going to run into issues. The most common issues you could find with an old 7.3 truck, or really any older diesel, is they're going to leak a lot of oil. Like I said, the turbo pedestal O-rings leak. You'll get a bunch of leaks on the top of the motor, and it'll all trickle down behind the motor. I haven't seen a lot of rear main seals. It's more of the stuff that's on top. There's a little oil hole in the back of the intake galley where the oil will leak through, right through the back, and will leak right under your driveway. So it really comes down to maintenance. You replace that stuff. You got to pull the turbo off, replace the seals, if you're, all that good stuff. But if you're okay with a little bit of oil leaking here and there, by all means, keep driving the truck, whatever. They do smoke. Like this one particularly will smoke like crazy because it's way more miles and probably could use a set of injectors, but it still runs good, so we're not doing injectors on it. My truck, 150,000 miles, I shouldn't have to do injectors for a long time, hopefully. I can leave clean oil in it. But anyway, oil changes are 3,000 to 5,000. We like to use a conventional 1540 Rotella in this one. I use the Rotella T6 1540 in this. Does pretty well. I use the Arch Oil 9100 in this every oil change. If you haven't looked at PowerStrokeSpecialty.com, those guys are awesome. He's got a YouTube channel. Really goes in depth on the Power Strokes because that's what they specialize in, and it's awesome. But anyway, a few of the issues here and there that I've seen in my shop. The oil coolers will go and start leaking, and they will leak everywhere. You got to pull an oil cooler off, and they actually have big O-rings that pop together, and those tend to just dry out and leak oil everywhere. I've only had to do 2 of them at my shop. Well, 3 trucks came in. 2 of the customers said yes to the repair, so we ended up fixing those. But they came to be in plow trucks with high idle time. Plow trucks, dump trucks, stuff like that we've seen. So you got your turbo pedestal leaking. Your turbo exhaust up pipes will leak. These are the original ones are non-bellowed, and they just get old. The bolts will start to rust, and you'll start developing a leak from the vibration. So the aftermarket company came up with a bellowed style up pipe, and they tend to work out a lot better. So the up pipes will leak, not oil, but will leak exhaust, and you'll lose power. You got your oil cooler will start leaking oil. Your oil pan, the oil pans in these trucks can be a pain at times, because especially if you live in a salty climate like we do here in northern Michigan. This one hasn't suffered that because it doesn't get driven in the winter, but my truck, there's a couple spots where the paint has flaked off, and you'll actually see rust bubbles starting. Unfortunately, these engines, it really depends on what shop you're working with. There's a way what really sucks is a lot of companies will pull the motor out. You have to pull the motor to do the oil pan. Screw that. It sucks. It's a lot of labor. It's just a lot of more stuff that can go wrong there. My shop uses ALLDATA, and first step with ALLDATA is remove transmission. But the oil pan, if you find a low mileage rust-free truck, you won't have to worry about the oil pan at all. It's just a kind of a Michigan or a Rust Belt type of deal there with the oil pan. I don't want to deter anybody away, because the 6 liters and the 6.4s, don't even get me started on the 6.4. That's just that engine makes a great amount of power, but just you're not going to get 150,000 miles out of it without any issues. But I've seen them with 300K. I don't know how that's possible, but they're good engines to an extent. But the failure point to that engine is catastrophic engine failure. But I'm not going to get onto the 6.4s. 7.3s is what we're here to talk about. So yeah, really, oil leaks, exhaust, just the up pipes, really. The manifolds seem to last a pretty long time. Haven't had an issue with a manifold. Haven't had an issue with the turbos blowing until you max out the tune on them and just balls to the wall, blow them up. These OBS trucks are prone to that. If you drive around on the max setting tune and you're flooring it everywhere, you'll actually overboost them and blow the turbos up. I've seen a couple of those. That's pretty much it. There's not a lot of big giant flaws. If you beat on the trucks, the transmissions, the auto transmissions tend to take a crap. They're not the strongest transmissions. This one's got the 4R100 E4OD in this one. Yeah, don't last a whole long, but if you take care of it, it'll last for a very long time. A buddy of mine's got 224,000 miles in his. Original transmission, everything runs great. But, yeah, if you guys are looking to get one of these 7.3 trucks, I would... They're awesome. I love them. I love the newer body style ones. They just look more modern. You could swap the 2015 clip on them. You know, you can do all that stuff. Better fuel mileage, better power. You got an intercooler. Tend to tow a trailer a lot better. I do a lot of car haulers and stuff like that with this one. Do a lot of heavy duty work with this one, and it does it great. These trucks will tow great too, but you got no intercooler, smaller turbo, single shot injectors, you know, kind of stuff like that. These only had around 215 horsepower. This later Model 1 had around 250, 255, I believe, and 525 foot-pounds of torque. These are just under 500. So good. I don't quote me on that. I believe that's what I saw on another person's post on whatever. It's probably fucking fake, but I don't know. You're not gonna get a lot of power out of these unless you build them up and tune them and make them crazy like that. The 6.7 Power Stroke's freaking crazy. 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. That's insane. But yeah, these older trucks are awesome. I highly recommend getting them. They will work. They run all the time. You'll see these trucks everywhere. Especially these ones. These things are everywhere. Very reliable if you take care of them. They're just really good, reliable old trucks. And they're awesome to swap into. If you want to get an older body style truck like this that got into an accident or something, it's just a cool project. Like to swap I saw a video of a guy who swapped a 7.3 into a Toyota Helix, and they had to like widen the truck out, and it's just freaking awesome. They made it their burnout truck, so that's cool. But yeah, these things are really reliable vehicles, and if you guys are looking for one, I would just keep searching, find some videos of just other reviews on them, and 9 out of 10 stars for the 7.3. 9 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Just that 1 star, I can't give it because there's other diesel engines out there that'll whoop this truck's ass. Duramaxes. You put this truck, if you put on max setting on this truck and you race against a stock Duramax, you're still going to lose. Don't ask. I know from experience because I've lost a lot of races against Duramaxes. But Duramaxes, the Cummins, these will beat the Cummins. First-hand experience there. Any stock Silverado, you'll lose. Well, not the 4.8s and the 5.3s I've won against, but I had a hopped-up 6-liter that I'd whoop my ass. But, yeah, our Toyotas, the freaking newer Tundras will whoop these trucks' asses. They're not race trucks by any means. I'm just saying my buddies have had these other trucks that have just whooped my ass in them, so they're not race trucks by any means. But yeah, if you guys are looking to buy one, I highly recommend them. You'll have a good, reliable truck and will last you a long time.